She was just a hungry orphan who slipped through the wrong gate on a cold November night. But when the city's most dangerous Mafia boss ordered his guards to bring her inside his fortress, the shivering girl saw something that made the world tilt beneath her feet. A portrait, massive and golden framed above the fireplace, her mother's face painted like royalty in silk and a crown. "Why is my mom's picture in your house?" she asked the man with the dragon tattoo coiling up his neck. His mouth opened to answer, but no sound came. His eyes went dark and hollow, as if he'd forgotten how to breathe, as if the weight of 7 years had crashed down in a single moment. 6-year-old Maya had escaped Harrington Group Home with one desperate thought: the mansion on the hill, the place the older kids whispered about, where dangerous men lived behind iron gates, where maybe, just maybe, someone powerful enough wouldn't turn away a starving child. The November wind cut through her thin red jacket as she climbed the steep road, following the endless fence. Her stomach twisted with hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. But hunger was nothing new. What drove her forward was something else. A feeling she couldn't name. Like something on that hill was calling her. Then she saw it. The Tanaka estate rose from the darkness like a sleeping beast, modern stone and black glass, sharp roof lines crowned with security cameras, walls wrapped in ivy that looked like scales. The iron gate was massive, twisted into dragons and flames, 20 feet high. Every instinct screamed, "Turn back!" But Maya's feet moved forward. Inside the mansion, Milo Tanaka sat in his study, reviewing contracts that would ruin 3 companies by morning. His phone buzzed. Security. He glanced at the monitor and froze. A child. Small. Shivering. Standing at his gate. Something about her face made his chest tighten. He couldn't look away. "Sir?" His head of security spoke through the intercom. "There's a kid at the main gate. Want us to call social services?" Milo's jaw clenched. "Bring her inside. Now." Outside, Maya pressed the intercom button. Her hand shook. A harsh voice crackled through. "This is private property. Leave." "Please," Maya's voice broke. "I'm cold. I just need help." Silence. Then a different voice. Deeper. Colder, with an edge that made her skin prickle. "How old are you?" 6. A long pause. Then, "Stay there. Don't move." The gate groaned, a deep mechanical scream, and began to open. Through the widening gap, Maya saw them. 2 men in black suits, faces like stone. And behind them, descending the mansion steps like a shadow-given form, was him. Milo Tanaka. Even a child could feel the weight of his presence. His dark hair was slicked back, his face carved from ice, and up his neck coiled a black dragon tattoo that seemed alive in the security lights. His eyes locked onto her, dark, calculating, dangerous. But there was something else in those eyes. Something that looked almost like recognition. Hello, friends. Before we go further, please like this video and subscribe. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We want to know. Maya's teeth chattered as the guards flanked her. One reached for her arm. Milo's hand shot up. "Don't touch her. Bring her to the hall. I'll handle this myself." He turned and walked back toward the mansion. Maya followed, not knowing she was walking toward the truth that would shatter everything. The guards led Maya through the outer courtyard, past fountain sculptures of coiling serpents and manicured hedges cut into geometric perfection. Her sneakers squeaked on wet marble. She tried not to look scared, but her heart hammered so hard she thought they could hear it. The mansion's entrance was all glass and steel, modern, cold, expensive. One guard swiped a keycard. The doors hissed open. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of leather and something darker. Cigars, maybe, or gun oil. They walked her through a marble foyer with a ceiling so high it made her dizzy. Everything was black and gold. Polished stone floors, abstract paintings on the walls, low lighting that cast long shadows. Her reflection followed her in the glossy surfaces, small and out of place. Milo waited at the end of the hall, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. As Maya approached, he studied her the way someone examines a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. His eyes moved over her face, the shape of her jaw, the curve of her nose, the defiant set of her mouth, even though she was terrified. "Leave us," Milo said quietly. The guards hesitated. "Sir, protocol?" I said, "Leave." They obeyed. The sound of their footsteps faded. The mansion fell silent, except for the distant hum of security systems. Milo crouched down to Maya's level. Up close, she could see the details of the dragon tattoo. Scales, claws, eyes that seemed to watch her. He smelled like expensive cologne and something metallic. "What's your name?" His voice was softer now, but no less dangerous. "Maya." She forced herself to meet his eyes. Mama always said, "Never look at the ground. People who look at the ground get stepped on." "Maya what?" "Just Maya. I don't have a last name. I'm from the group home." Something flickered across his face. "How did you get past my fence?" "There's a gap, on the east side, behind the big tree." Milo's jaw tightened. Someone would pay for that security failure. "Why did you come here?" Maya's stomach growled loudly in the silence. She flushed with embarrassment but lifted her chin anyway. "I was hungry. I thought maybe you'd have food." "You came to a Mafia boss's house because you were hungry?" "I didn't know you were a Mafia boss. I just knew you were rich." A ghost of something, amusement, respect, crossed Milo's face. Then it vanished. He stood and walked to a side table, poured water into a crystal glass, and brought it back. Maya took it with both hands and drank like she'd been lost in a desert. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday. Lunch." Milo's expression hardened, not at her, at something else. He pulled out his phone and typed quickly. 30 seconds later, a woman in a staff uniform appeared carrying a tray. Soup, bread, fruit. Maya stared at the food like it might disappear. "Eat," Milo said. She didn't need to be told twice. She tore into the bread, dipped it in the soup, ate with the focused intensity of someone who never knew when the next meal would come. Milo watched her in silence, his face unreadable. But inside, something was breaking. The way she held her head high despite being afraid. The way she didn't beg or cry. The way her eyes blazed with quiet fury at a world that had failed her. He'd seen that fire before. In a woman who'd walked into his office 7 years ago and told him to his face that he was wrong. Who'd looked at the dragon and seen a man. Elena. "How old are you, Maya?" 6. The timeline clicked into place like a gun being cocked. Milo's hand trembled before he clenched it into a fist. He turned away so she wouldn't see his face. "Come with me," he said, his voice suddenly rough. "There's something you need to see." Milo led Maya through the west corridor, past closed doors and silent rooms. Their footsteps echoed on the marble. The air grew colder as they approached the grand hall, the heart of the estate, where Milo conducted business, where deals were made and lives were decided. He pushed open the heavy double doors. Candlelight flooded out. The hall was massive, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city lights. But Maya didn't see any of that. She saw the portrait. It hung above the fireplace, dominating the entire wall. A woman in golden silk, draped like a queen, wearing a crown that caught the candlelight and blazed. Her skin was deep brown, her hair natural and full, her eyes intelligent and fierce. The painting was so lifelike it seemed like she might step out of the frame. Maya's legs stopped working. Her breath caught in her throat. The bowl she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. "That's my mom." The words came out in a whisper, but they hit Milo like a bullet to the chest. He turned slowly, his face drained of color. "What did you say?" Maya pointed with a shaking hand. "That's my mom. That's Elena. Why is my mom's picture in your house?" The world tilted. Milo grabbed the edge of a chair to steady himself. 7 years. 7 years he'd stared at that portrait every single day, and now a child, this child, was telling him the impossible. He crossed the room to his desk in 3 long strides, yanked open a locked drawer, and pulled out a photograph. Worn at the edges, creased from being held too many times. He walked back and knelt in front of Maya, his hands trembling as he held it out. Elena, younger, smiling, alive. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "That's her. That's my mama." "When did she die?" 2 years ago. I was 4. Milo's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "Tell me something only her daughter would know." Maya wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "She smelled like jasmine, every night. She said it reminded her of someone she loved, and she had a birthmark on her shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. And she used to sing me a lullaby about a paper dragon who was scary on the outside but gentle on the inside." Milo's breath stopped. The paper dragon. Elena had made that story up for them, back when they'd planned a future together, when she'd dreamed of children they might have. She'd said she wanted to teach their baby that monsters could learn to be kind. He pressed his palm against his face, trying to control the rage and grief exploding inside him. They'd taken her. The Kozlovs had taken her, erased her, stolen 7 years he could never get back. And this child, his child, had been alone, hungry, abandoned by a system that didn't care. Maya watched him, confused and scared by the raw emotion cracking through his controlled exterior. "Did you know my mom?" she asked quietly. Milo lowered his hand. His eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Dragons didn't cry, not where anyone could see. "Yes," he said, his voice breaking on the word. "I knew your mother. I loved her. And Maya—" He reached out slowly and touched her cheek, his hand rough but gentle. "You're mine. You're my daughter." Maya stared at him, trying to understand what that meant. Then the mansion's alarms began to scream. Milo's hand shot to his phone. He barked orders in rapid Japanese. The alarms cut off. His security chief's voice crackled through. "False alarm, sir. Perimeter sensor malfunction. We're running diagnostics." Milo didn't believe in coincidences, but he nodded and pocketed the phone. His eyes returned to Maya, who looked small and terrified in the sudden silence. "Come here." He sat down on the floor, his back against the stone fireplace, directly beneath Elena's portrait. After a moment, Maya sat beside him, her small body tense. "I need to tell you something," Milo said quietly. "And I need you to listen carefully, because things are about to get very dangerous." Maya nodded. "I met your mother 7 years ago. I was everything people say I am. A criminal, a monster, someone parents warn their children about. I ran this city through fear, and one day, this woman in a cheap suit walked into my office building with a briefcase and zero fear in her eyes." He smiled, bitter and sad. "She was a legal aid attorney. I was extorting a family, restaurant owners who couldn't pay protection money. She came to negotiate on their behalf. My men laughed at her, but she looked at me and said, 'Milo Tanaka, you're better than this. I can see it.'" Maya's eyes widened. "No one calls you Milo?" "No one but her. Everyone else called me Mr. Tanaka or Sir or Boss. But Elena looked at the dragon and called me by my name." He paused, his throat tight. "She wasn't afraid, and that was everything." "What happened?" "We kept meeting. She kept coming back, trying to negotiate, trying to convince me to change. And I started changing, not because she begged, but because she believed I could." We fell in love. In secret, because if anyone knew, she'd be a target. And then one night, she told me she was pregnant. Maya's breath caught. We planned to disappear, new identities, new life, somewhere far from this city and all its blood. We had plane tickets. We had a house picked out by the ocean. And then, his fist clenched against the floor. The night before we were supposed to leave, she vanished, just gone. No trace, no body, no ransom demand. What did you do? I burned this city looking for her. I tore apart every rival, every enemy, every contact. For 2 years I searched. Then someone sent me proof, a medical record, a death certificate. They told me she'd died in a car accident in another state. I had no reason not to believe it. His voice dropped to a whisper. I never knew about you. If I'd known there was a child, I would have found you. I would have torn the world apart. Maya reached out and took his hand. It was huge compared to hers, scarred and deadly, but she held it anyway. The Kozlovs took her, Milo continued, his voice hardening. They erased her memory and dumped her somewhere far away, and now that they know you exist... His phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His face went white. They're coming. The door to the grand hall burst open. Saito strode in, Milo's right hand, a man with silver-streaked hair and a scar running from his temple to his jaw. His face was grim. We have a problem. Milo stood, positioning himself between Saito and Maya. Talk. Yeah. Security footage from the East Gate has been accessed remotely. Someone hacked our system 20 minutes ago. They know a child entered the compound. Saito's eyes flicked to Maya, then back to Milo. The Kozlovs have eyes on us. Milo's expression went cold as winter. How long do we have? Our informant inside their operation says they're mobilizing now. Victor himself is coming. He's bringing 30 men, heavy weapons. They'll hit us before dawn. Maya felt Milo's hand tighten on her shoulder. Protective, but also terrified. Why? Maya's voice was small. Why do they want to hurt me? Saito glanced at Milo, who nodded permission. The lieutenant crouched down, his scarred face oddly gentle. Because you're dangerous, little one, not because of what you've done, but because of what you represent. I don't understand. Milo's voice was ice. The Kozlov Syndicate has been at war with us for decades. Power, territory, money, all of it balanced on a knife's edge. 7 years ago, they had informants everywhere, even in my inner circle. His jaw clenched. When they discovered Elena was pregnant, they saw the future. A child of Tanaka blood, raised by a woman who could make me human. An heir who might unite the families, or who might grow up to destroy them with legitimacy I never had. Saito continued. So they made her disappear. They used experimental drugs, memory erasure compounds developed by a chemist they kept on payroll. They wiped her mind, gave her a new identity, and dumped her 3 states away with just enough money to survive. They thought she'd die quietly, forgotten. But she didn't, Maya whispered. No, she survived. She had you, and she raised you for 4 years before that illness took her. Milo's voice cracked. An illness that probably wasn't natural. The pieces fell into place like dominoes. The Kozlovs had orchestrated everything. The kidnapping, the memory wipe, Elena's death, Maya ending up in a broken system where no one would ask questions. They'd tried to erase his bloodline from existence. They monitored the group home, Milo said, his voice deadly calm. They knew where you were. They were probably waiting until you were older, less conspicuous to eliminate. But now you're here. Now I know. And Victor can't allow that. What do we do? Saito asked. Milo looked down at Maya, this tiny, fierce girl who'd walked through his gates looking for food and found a father instead. His daughter, his blood. The last piece of Elena left in this world. We prepare for war, he said quietly, and we make sure they regret ever touching my family. He lifted Maya into his arms. She wrapped her small hands around his neck, feeling the dragon tattoo beneath her fingers. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good," Milo said. "Fear keeps you alive, but I promise you this." His eyes burned with controlled fury. "They will not touch you, not while I breathe." Outside, in the darkness beyond the estate walls, engines rumbled. The Kozlovs were coming. Milo carried Maya through a hidden corridor behind his study, past biometric scanners and steel doors that opened to his touch alone. They descended stairs that seemed to go down forever, lit only by motion sensor lights that flickered on as they passed. At the bottom was a door made of dark wood, carved with Japanese characters Maya couldn't read. "This is my shrine," Milo said quietly. "No one comes here but me, not even Saito." He pushed the door open. The room was small, circular, lit by paper lanterns that cast warm amber light on stone walls, and everywhere, covering every surface, were pieces of Elena. Maya gasped. Her mother's law degree, framed in simple wood, a perfume bottle on a small table, the jasmine scent still faintly present after all these years, handwritten letters in Elena's flowing script, preserved behind glass, a silk scarf, a photograph of her laughing, a pressed flower, a coffee mug with a chipped handle. "You kept everything," Maya whispered. "I couldn't let her go." Milo set Maya down gently. "For 7 years, I came here every night and talked to ghosts. I thought she was dead. I thought I'd failed her." He walked to the center of the room where an ancient stone seal sat on a pedestal, circular, carved with a dragon wrapping around a sword. The Tanaka family crest, passed down for generations. "My father gave me this before he died. He said blood answers to blood. Family protects family, no matter the cost." Milo pulled a knife from his pocket. Small, ceremonial, razor sharp. "I never thought I'd use this. I never thought I'd have an heir." He cut his palm without hesitation. Blood welled up, dark red in the lantern light. He let a drop fall onto the seal. It sizzled where it touched the stone, as if the ancient metal was alive. Then he knelt before Maya and held out his hand. "Give me your hand." Maya hesitated, then placed her small palm in his. He pressed it to the seal, covering the spot where his blood had fallen. The stone was warm, almost hot. Maya felt something, like electricity, like recognition, like something old and powerful waking up. "You are Tanaka," Milo said, his voice formal and fierce. "Daughter of Milo Tanaka and Elena Rhodes, my blood, my heir, my family, and I swear on this seal, on the graves of my ancestors, on everything I am." His grip tightened gently. "No one will touch you while I breathe. No one will take you from me. You are mine to protect, and I will burn this world to ash before I let them hurt you." Maya looked up at him, this dangerous man with the dragon tattoo and the broken heart, and for the first time since her mother died, she felt something she'd forgotten existed. Safety. She threw her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. Milo wrapped his arms around her, holding her like she was made of glass and iron at the same time. Above them, the estate's alarm system began to wail. The Kozlovs had arrived. The first explosion hit the east wall like a thunderclap from hell. The shrine room shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Milo grabbed Maya and ran. They burst back into the grand hall just as the windows shattered. Gunfire erupted outside, controlled bursts from Milo's men, answered by a storm of automatic weapons fire from beyond the walls. Saito appeared, his suit torn, blood running down his arm. They breached the outer perimeter. 35 hostiles, heavy artillery. "They're not here to negotiate, boss. They're here to exterminate." "How long can we hold?" 20 minutes, maybe less." Milo's jaw set like stone. He crossed to the portrait of Elena, his fingers finding a hidden switch in the ornate frame. A section of the wall behind the fireplace slid open, a reinforced steel door concealed behind false stone. "The safe room," He pulled Maya inside. It was small, maybe 8 feet square, lined with supplies: water, food, medical kit, a satellite phone, and something wrapped in cloth that Maya instinctively knew was a weapon. "Listen to me." Milo knelt, gripping Maya's shoulders, his eyes boring into hers. "You stay here, no matter what you hear, no matter what happens. You do not open this door." "I'm scared." "I know. But you're also Tanaka. You're my daughter. You have your mother's courage and my blood. That makes you the most dangerous person in this room." Another explosion, closer this time. The walls trembled. "If anyone but me opens this door," Milo continued, his voice urgent but controlled, "you scream. You scream so loud your mother hears you in heaven. You fight. You bite. You survive. Do you understand?" Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face. Milo pulled her into a crushing embrace, pressing his lips to the top of her head. "I will come back for you. I promise." "What if you don't?" "Then Saito will. And if not him, then you use that phone and call the number programmed in it. Help will come. But Maya..." He pulled back, cupping her face. "I'm not dying tonight. I have too much to make up for. 7 years of bedtime stories, 7 years of birthdays, 7 years of being your father." He stood and walked to the door, paused, looked back one more time. "Your mother loved you more than anything in this world, and so do I." Then he was gone. The steel door slid shut with a heavy mechanical thunk. Maya heard locks engaging, multiple bolts slamming into place. She was alone in the darkness. Outside, the battle raged. She heard shouting in multiple languages, the crack of gunfire, the roar of something exploding, and underneath it all, getting closer, the sound of boots on marble, heavy, deliberate, predatory. Through the crack in the door seam, Maya saw a figure enter the grand hall. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black tactical gear. Viktor Kozlov had entered the mansion, and he was looking for her. Maya pressed herself against the back wall of the safe room, her hand over her mouth to muffle her breathing. Through the tiny crack in the door, she watched Viktor Kozlov move through the grand hall like a hunting wolf. He was older than Milo, maybe 50, with silver hair and a face carved from granite. His men fanned out behind him, rifles raised, clearing corners with military precision. "Tanaka!" Victor's voice boomed through the mansion. "I know the child is here. Give her to me and your men live. Refuse, and I burn this place to the ground with everyone inside." Silence. Milo was somewhere else in the compound, fighting. Victor's eyes scanned the room and locked onto the portrait of Elena. He stared at it for a long moment, something like regret flickering across his face. Then he noticed the frame, the slight gap in the wall behind it. "There." His men moved forward. Maya's heart hammered. This was it. He was going to find her. He was going to kill her. The steel door began to grind open. Victor appeared in the doorway, filling it completely. He looked down at the small girl pressed against the wall, and something in his expression shifted. Not mercy, just recognition. He'd done this before. He'd ended children to protect his empire. He raised his pistol. "I'm sorry, child, but you're too dangerous to live." Maya didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, she did something her mother had taught her. She spoke truth. "Your son didn't die." Victor's finger froze on the trigger. "What did you say?" Maya's voice shook but held firm. "Alexei, your son. He didn't die in a car accident 8 years ago. He ran away because you beat him, because he was afraid you'd kill him like you kill everyone else." Victor's face went white. "You don't know what you're talking about." "He's alive, living in Vancouver under the name Alex Sokolov. He's a music teacher. He has a wife and a baby girl named Sophia." The words tumbled out. Information Milo had discovered in Elena's old case files, secrets she'd uncovered as a legal aid attorney. "He thinks about you every day. He still has the scar on his ribs where you broke them when he was 14. The pistol lowered slowly. He wanted to be a violinist, Maya continued, tears streaming down her face now. But you told him that was weak, that Kozlov men didn't play music, they made war. So he ran. And you told everyone he died because you couldn't admit your son was afraid of you. Victor's hand trembled. Behind him, his men exchanged glances. Their unshakable leader, the man they'd followed through 20 years of blood, was being unmade by a 6-year-old girl telling truths he'd buried. How? Victor's voice cracked. How do you know this? My mom helped him leave. She was his attorney. She gave him money and a new identity. That's why you took her. That's why you killed her. Victor staggered backward, the gun hanging loose in his hand. The spell was broken. And in that moment of shattered authority, Milo Tanaka stepped into the hall behind them. Milo moved like death in a tailored suit. Blood streaked his face from a gash above his eye. His knuckles were split and raw, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. Step away from my daughter! Victor spun, rage flooding back into his face. Rage at being exposed, at being weakened, at losing control. He raised his pistol. Milo was faster. He closed the distance in 3 strides, knocked the gun aside with a brutal strike to Victor's wrist, and drove his fist into the older man's throat. Victor choked and stumbled backward into the grand hall. You took everything from me. Milo's voice was quiet, deadly. You stole 7 years. You killed the woman I loved. You tried to murder my child. Victor pulled a knife from his belt, a wicked, curved blade that caught the firelight. She was a threat. The child is a threat. I did what was necessary. You did what cowards do. You destroyed instead of adapting. Victor lunged. The blade slashed toward Milo's throat. Milo deflected, grabbed Victor's arm, and twisted. Bone cracked. Victor screamed but didn't drop the knife. He reversed his grip and slashed upward, catching Milo across the ribs. Blood bloomed across Milo's white shirt. They crashed into Elena's portrait. The frame cracked. Glass shattered. The 2 men fell to the marble floor in a tangle of violence, punching, clawing, fighting with the desperate brutality of predators who knew only one could walk away. Victor got on top, the knife raised high for a killing blow. Milo caught his wrist, holding the blade inches from his chest. His arms shook with effort. Victor pressed down, years of hate behind the movement. Then Milo shifted his weight, rolled, and reversed their positions in one explosive motion. He ripped the knife from Victor's hand and pressed it to the older man's throat. Victor froze, breathing hard, blood trickling from his nose and mouth. You lose, Milo whispered. Behind them, Maya stepped out of the safe room. Don't. Milo's hand tightened on the knife. One movement, one slice, 7 years of agony ended. Please, Maya's voice was small but clear. Mom wouldn't want you to. She always said violence just makes more violence. She said the strongest thing a person can do is choose mercy. Milo's hand trembled. The blade bit into Victor's skin, drawing a thin line of blood. Elena's words echoed in his memory. You're better than this, Milo. I can see it. He looked at Maya, his daughter watching him, waiting to see what kind of man her father would be. Milo dropped the blade. It clattered on the marble. Get out, he said, standing and backing away. Take your men and leave. Tell everyone what happened here. Tell them the dragon showed mercy. Tell them a 6-year-old girl had more courage than you. Tell them the wolf ran. Victor staggered to his feet, humiliated, broken. His men stood frozen in the doorway, seeing their leader defeated not by death, but by something worse. Pity. Victor stumbled toward the exit, then stopped. The boy. Is he really alive? Yes, Milo said, and he's better off without you. Victor left without another word. The siege was over. Dawn broke over the city like a promise. Golden light spilled through the shattered windows of the Tanaka estate, painting the destruction in warm amber. Broken glass glittered like diamonds. Bullet holes scarred the walls. Blood stained the marble. But it was quiet now. Milo sat on the front steps, his back against a stone pillar, his body screaming with pain from wounds he'd ignored during the fight. Saito was coordinating cleanup, removing bodies, repairing walls, erasing evidence. The machine of the underworld kept turning. But Milo was done turning with it. Maya appeared in the doorway, still wearing her dirty red jacket, her hair tangled, her eyes too old for 6 years. She walked over and climbed into his lap without asking permission. Milo wrapped his arms around her and held on like she might disappear. "Is it over?" she asked. "Yes." "Are you okay?" "No," he smiled, bitter and honest. "But I will be." They sat in silence, watching the sun climb higher. The city sprawled below them. 1,000,000 lives, 1,000,000 stories, most of them unaware that a war had been fought and won in the mansion on the hill. Milo reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather-bound book. Black, worn, heavy with secrets. Maya looked at it curiously. "What's that?" "My ledger. Every debt owed to me. Every threat I hold. Every piece of leverage that keeps my empire running." He opened it, revealing pages of names, numbers, sins recorded in neat handwriting. "This book is my power. It's also my prison." He pulled out a matchbook, the kind fancy restaurants give you, embossed with gold lettering. He struck a match. The flame flickered to life, small and fragile in the morning light. "Help me," Milo said. Maya took the match from him. Together they touched it to the corner of the ledger. The paper caught immediately, curling and blackening. Flames spread across the pages, consuming names and numbers and 7 years of cold calculation. They watched it burn until there was nothing left but ash. "What do we do now?" Maya asked. Milo stood, wincing at his injuries, and lifted Maya onto his shoulders. She laughed, the first real laugh he'd heard from her, bright and clear and alive. "We start over, little dragon. We find a new story." He walked down the steps toward the rising sun, away from the mansion, away from the empire. "I'm going to teach you things, important things, how to be brave like your mother, how to tell the truth even when it's hard, how to choose mercy even when you want revenge." "What about being a Mafia boss?" "That story's over. I'm writing a new one now." He squeezed her ankle gently. "One where the dragon becomes a protector, where the paper dragon learns what he was always meant to be." Maya rested her chin on top of his head, feeling safe for the first time in 2 years. Below them, the city woke up to a new day, and so did they.